Hello, this is LowGravity56 and welcome to my first ever video featuring my voice. As you can probably tell, English isn't my first language, but I hope I can make myself clear. Today's video is about the things that help me get Voltaic Diamond Complete. So I hope that if you're grinding to get Diamond, you can apply some of the things that I'm going to tell you. First, a little disclaimer. I do my benchmarks and all of my Aimtraining on Kovaaks, so when I talk about specific playlists, I'm talking about Kovaaks playlists. If you turn on Aimblast, please feel free to find the equivalent playlist and keep watching, since most of the things I talk about here are about Aimtraining in general, regardless of the Aimtrainer you use. Also, I'd like to say right away that these are the things and tips that helped me on my journey to Diamond. So I'm not saying that this is the absolute best advice you can get or the fastest way to climb to Diamond, but it worked for me, and I went from my original placement of Gold 1 to Diamond Complete in 29 days. In this section of the video, I'd like to talk about general things you should keep in mind when you decide to embark on this journey. The first thing I have to say is that consistency is key. I know you've heard this a million times, but it is true, and it is better to play 30 minutes a day every day than playing a 10-hour session once a month. Don't overdo things. If you get tired in a practice session and feel you're not paying attention to what you're doing, stop, because you will build bad habits. This ties into the second idea I'd like to mention, and that is that you should practice with the intention to get better. You can listen to music or podcasts or whatever, but truly focus on the targets and your aim. Do not enter automatic mode, and please try to make the conscious effort to get better. Only perfect practice makes perfect, and playing Kovaaks for 2 hours without focusing on what you're doing will do nothing for your aim. The last thing I'd like to say in this section of the video is that you should know that muscle memory, or the idea that your brain gets used to a specific sensitivity to perform certain movements precisely, is a lie. It is simply not true, and I urge you to stop focusing so much in finding a perfect sensitivity. When you aim train, you are developing mouse control, and that is something you can transfer to any sensitivity. Although, I obviously have to mention that different games favor different sensitivity ranges, but that shouldn't be a concern regarding aim training. If you're watching this video, I assume that you know that in Voltaic Discord, you can not only find the benchmarks you need to play to get your rank, but you can also find the fundamental routines. These routines are made so that you can develop every aspect of your aim according to your current skill level. These routines will be linked in the description. What I propose is the following. At least according to my experience, as humans, we have to focus more on things we find harder. The fundamental playlists are made so that if you're ranked in gold, you go and play the gold fundamental playlist until you can hit platinum. When I started doing the Voltaic routines, I changed the formula a little. And instead of doing the fundamental routine of the rank you are currently in, you should play the fundamental routine of the rank you are trying to achieve. So, in the example, instead of doing the gold fundamental routine, you would do the platinum fundamental routine. I think this way you're forcing yourself to play harder scenarios and you'll be able to develop your aim faster. Now, if you find that this is too hard for you, don't do it. There's a limit to how hard a specific task can be before it goes from being beneficial to your learning and it goes to being detrimental and not worth it. Think of trying to teach a toddler how to do advanced math. It simply would not work. I suggest doing the full fundamental playlist of the rank above the one you're currently in, or the one you're in if you find this to be too difficult, once a day, every day. This should take about an hour. If you don't have an hour a day, try to reduce the number of times you play each scenario, or try to divide the playlist and play half of it every day. Do not skip scenarios. I know if I ask you to think of the scenario you hate the most, something will immediately come to your mind. We're only human and we try to avoid doing the things we don't like. But most likely, you don't like a specific scenario because it is the hardest one for you. There is absolutely no way you will get better at that scenario if you don't play it. I ask you to be patient, you will get better, I promise. I suggest that alongside playing the fundamental playlist, you should also play a playlist designed to help you improve in a specific aiming technique. As you know, Voltaic divides the aiming techniques into 3 main categories: clicking, tracking, and target switching. And each category is divided into 2 different subcategories, like dynamic clicking, static clicking, reactive tracking, and so on. What I recommend is that you play the fundamental playlist to train every aspect of your aim, and then play a playlist about clicking, tracking, or target switching. You should focus on a specific aiming category until you can beat every benchmark scenario in that specific category. So, for example, alongside playing the Platinum fundamental routine, you should also play the Flick experimental routine by Christmas is Cancelled to focus a little harder on clicking. Then, when you have the skill to beat the clicking benchmark scenarios, you should keep doing the fundamental playlist, But now play a reactivity playlist or a smoothness playlist instead of the clicking playlist, and so on until you beat all of the benchmarks. The specific playlists I recommend for the 3 main aiming techniques are the flick experimental routine I mentioned for clicking, the pure smoothness and reactivity playlist for tracking, and the just move your hand faster and pure G target switching playlist for target switching. All of these routines will be in the description of this video, and you can find them on Reed by the Ways' GitHub. By the way, thank you Reed for letting me use your GitHub. Reed makes amazing aiming content and he has helped me a lot on my journey, so please go check out his channel. He is currently making a series about every subcategory of aiming, and he always has good insight and tips. The benefit of doing what I propose is that you will keep improving on every aspect of your aim while focusing harder on a specific type of aiming technique. So, when you go to your benchmarks, you would only do the benchmarks of the aiming category you are focusing. This means that if you're focusing clicking, you would only do the clicking benchmarks. I think this is good because you would only focus on doing 6 benchmark scenarios instead of 18, which in turn will be a less daunting task and will be less tiring. If you have seen my Road to Diamond videos, you will see that I focus on a category every time, going for clicking, then tracking, and then target switching. Of course, the order is completely up to you. To close this topic, I have to say I was doing the benchmarks every 2 days. I think people get scared of the benchmarks and they tend to shy away from them as much as they can. I think with the training method I'm proposing in this video, you will improve faster than you think, so I encourage you to play the benchmarks way more frequently than you would normally do. Remember, everyone comes to this world with different abilities, so don't get discouraged and go at your own pace. This isn't a race, and you should only compare yourself with your past self. Breaking plateaus is a very common topic. In fact, I think it is way too emphasized. You should focus on improving organically, and breaking plateaus every day shouldn't be a concern for you. If you only focus on that, you will get extremely disappointed. Having said that, if you're doing the method I talked about before, and let's say you only need to beat one last benchmark scenario before focusing on the next aiming category, I think the fastest way of beating that scenario would be doing 2 things. First, look for that scenario on YouTube and analyze how the better aimers play it. I recommend checking out Silky Crisp's YouTube playlist, in which he plays every intermediate benchmark scenario and shows how the silver, gold, platinum, and diamond look like. Try to focus on what he does and try to implement that on your next run. Of course, the link for the playlist and for Silky Crisp's channel will be in the description. He also makes great content and you should check him out. Secondly, the most effective way of beating a specific scenario would be to make a short playlist, not longer than 20 minutes, with 3 or 4 harder versions of the scenario you're trying to beat. For example, if you're stuck on B180T Voltaic easy like I was at some point, make a playlist with harder versions before trying to run the benchmark again. I guarantee that this way you will quickly break your plateaus. I think the one thing that helped me out the most with my Aimtraining was using a sense randomizer. In the description I will link both the sensitivity randomizer Voltaic recommends and a video by Reed by the way in which he talks about the experience using a sense randomizer. Basically, I think it is an amazing tool that will help you improve way faster than you would otherwise, and this is because of 2 things. Firstly, because it is constantly changing your sensitivity, you don't get used to what you're doing, so you have to be fully focused at all times. This is good because you don't go into an automatic robot mode and you're actually focused on aiming and improving. So, if you get easily distracted, I recommend you give the sense randomizer a try. And secondly, since it goes randomly from low to high sense and everything in between, you will start a scenario with a high sense, for example, which usually means you'll mostly use your wrist and fingers, to a lower sense, which would incorporate arm aiming, which you wouldn't normally use if you are used to playing with a higher sense. This will result in you learning to use each part of your arm effectively to perform every aiming method regardless of sensitivity. In the end, you will be gaining a lot of mouse control extremely fast, and I think it will help you get better at changing sensitivities when playing different games that favor a lower or higher sense. First, I'd like to say I am not a doctor and I don't have studies to prove what I am about to say, but I think you should really take care of your health. First, you must sleep at least 6 hours every night and you must have a balanced diet. Both of these things are extremely important when trying to learn anything, and this also applies to Aimtraining. If you are sleep deprived, learning becomes way harder. Secondly, I want to talk about proper posture. You should try to be consistent not only with your practice, but also with the way you sit, your monitor height, your preferred mouse grip, etc. If you can recreate these conditions every time, you will be consistent every time, or at least there will be less sources of inconsistency. This also helps prevent injury and chronic back pain. Finally, stretching. I don't have scientific papers or anything to prove this, but personally I felt that stretching my arms, wrists, fingers, shoulders, neck, and even doing some eye exercises before and after playing definitely has had benefits in both my performance in game and how tired my limbs feel after playing. There is literally no excuse to not stretch, and I assure you it is beneficial in the long run. I'd like to remind you that the Voltaic Discord isn't only the place to go find the benchmarks. It is an actual community of passionate people that are willing to help you out if you have doubts about anything. As humans, we are social creatures, and a great way to stay motivated with your Aimtraining journey is to find people on the Discord to share their experiences with. I'd also like to remind you that there is a Slack channel on the Discord to share your content if you're a content creator. Personally, that was the way I found Tengutero's channel, and ever since that moment we've been helping each other's YouTube channel grow and kept us motivated to keep our Aimtraining journeys. Finally, you should remember to have fun. You're doing this because you like it and you want to get better at aiming and FPS games. So try not to make it feel like a job and rather something you're doing for self-improvement. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment and subscribe. I'm always open to feedback and suggestions, and if something wasn't clear in the video, please let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. See you later and happy grinding!